and the disciple are observing a tent village in the desert. And it's silent, but suddenly the silence is broken by the sound of high-pitched cries of excitement. A woman has given birth. At that moment, the teacher opens up the mystery of heaven's womb.
When we were in our mother's womb, we had no idea of the world outside. Someone could tell us about it, but we had no evidence of it. We had ears to hear, though, but there was nothing to hear, no voices. We had eyes to see, but there was no color to see. We had feet to walk, but there was nothing to walk on. Lips to speak, but there was no way to speak.
See, all those things were signs to the child in the womb that the child was made for something more. And the child could actually be frustrated when you're in the womb, wants to move around, but there's no way. But all those things within the child are testifying that there was a world that existed beyond the womb. You see, the womb cannot answer all those things because the womb doesn't exist to be the final place or home. And so there's a whole world out there of color. That's why we had eyes. There's a whole world of sounds and voices. That's why we have ears. We have a voice to speak. We had hands to hold, but there was nobody to hold our hand. But what it's saying is the womb doesn't make sense in itself. It's because of the life beyond the womb. And so in the same way, this world that we're in now, it doesn't make sense. We have things in our hearts that the world cannot meet. You have things in your life the world can never satisfy. And it can be frustrating. We long for eternity. We long for perfect things. We long for love. We don't see it in this world. Why? The mystery of this world is that this world is made as a place of preparation. When Messiah spoke of what comes after this world, he spoke of it as the day we enter life. Think about that. If we're going to enter life, then what is this present life? It has to be pre-life. It has to be pre-birth. It has to be prenatal. In fact, the scriptures speak about the whole creation groaning and laboring in birth pangs until now. This entire life is prenatal. Do you know what that means? You know what this life really is? Get this. This life is the womb of heaven. This life is heaven's womb. It's not what you're destined for. It's not your home. It's the place of the preparation for the place that you're destined for. As the womb was the place to prepare you for this life is the womb to prepare you for heaven. And as an unborn child can never understand or can't judge his life by the womb, neither can you judge your life or understand your life by what's happening around you. You can only understand it by what you're preparing for. Heaven. God will use everything in this world, everything in your life, the joys, the sorrows, the victories, the losses, the mountains and the valleys, all of it to prepare you, to grow you into the child of heaven you are yet to become. So from here on in, see this world and your life as it actually is, and let it prepare you for life beyond this world and the world beyond this world, that you would be ready on that day when you leave this world and you're born to eternity, for everything you've known in this life was nothing else but heaven's womb. When Messiah died, what happened? The veil was torn in two, but as the veil was torn in two, the cherubim were pulled apart. Arguing with my people in school, people who believed. I was always arguing with them. I was the atheist of the school. So that lasted until I was about 12, 13, and at that point I began to lose faith in atheism. And that I said, wait a minute, there's got to be something. There's got to be a reason why we exist. There can't be no reason. We can't exist for nothing. How do we exist? There has to be a cause. So I started seeking. Got books on science, books on religion, books on the occult, Edgar Cayce, Nostradamus, everything you can imagine, and I just was devouring it and devouring it. Even the Chariot of the Gods came out at that time. It was about these ancient astronauts.
The international bestseller by Eric von Däniken that shattered conventional theories about history and archaeology. Chariots of the Gods explores von Däniken's controversial and explosive theory that beings from other galaxies visited Earth in ancient times. Did a genius from another world design the pyramids? Is there evidence?
And one day, I picked up a book that looked just like the UFO books. I mean, it was made to look like it. They changed the font, looked just like that year. And I picked it up and thinking it was that kind of book, and it was The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. It was saying, could the prophecies given in the Bible be coming true now about end-time prophecy? Israel back in the world, the Bible said it, and all these things I had no idea of. Because I had been reading all these other books, and every book mentions Jesus. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's occult, UFO, Jesus is in there. The one thing that you could never do is you could believe in anything but Jesus. You could be in Eastern meditation. You could be a Buddhist Jew. You could be an atheist Jew. You could be a communist Jew. All these kind of Jews. But the one thing, if you believe in this Jewish rabbi, you're not Jewish. Now I'm reading about Jesus in The Late Great Planet Earth. So I'm reading about how all the prophecies speaking of Israel coming back in the world, the Bible said it, he would gather them back, it's come true. They would come to Jerusalem, it's come true. The world would focus on Israel, it's come true. Even as an atheist, I had to consider it just cold logically. I said, I can't argue with this is amazing. So as time went on, it was like they were filtering, all these other things started falling aside. It was just the Bible is the only thing that held up. I'm telling my friends about it. Now, I'm not a believer, but I'm telling my friends all about it, and I'm winning them to the Lord. But I'm not saved, but I'm winning them to the Lord. And I'm telling everybody I can about it. I remember being in high school, and I had a speech class, and so I had to give a speech. I preached to the class. Jesus, he was the Messiah. He fulfilled all these prophecies. Isaiah 53, he died for our sins. I always thought all these things were Catholic. It ends up being in our Bible. I only had a Hebrew scriptures in our house. So I'm reading the Hebrew scriptures, and I'm reading about how the Messiah has to be born in Bethlehem. Again, all these things I thought were Catholic. It's there. He had to be the savior of the Gentiles, the Jewish Messiah. He had to ride in on a donkey. I knew that was Jesus. Then he had to die for our sins. So it's all there, Isaiah 53. So I'm believing in my head, and I'm trying to escape the ramifications, but I can't. But I still don't want to follow him. And because I thought if you follow him, you give up your life, you give up everything that's good, you join a monastery, and that's the end of your life. And at that time, I'm a teenager now, and I have a rock band and doing things that teenagers do, and I don't want to give up anything, So finally, as I'm watching my friends come to the Lord, I'm saying, I said, Lord, I know you're there, I know you're right, but I don't want to serve you. I don't want to give up these things. I said, but how about we make a deal? And so the deal was, I said, we'll make a deal. If you give me a long life, I'll accept you when I'm on my deathbed. Soon after I made that deal, I was almost killed. I'm in a Ford Pinto, which, for those who don't know, they used to blow up on, impact. And I'm heading to a train track at night, and the train track had no protection on it, and it was a bumpy road. It was just two rails coming on an angle. People had been hit on that track by train, and I heard they were killed. So I'm approaching the track at night, and the light is going on. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe the train passed. Maybe it's broken because all the other cars were still crossing. So I said, well, I'm not going to cross the track until I make sure that there's no train coming. So I'm kind of getting closer to the track, and I look and I see to my left a light, and the light isn't moving, or it doesn't look like it's moving. The light was the headlights of the train. It didn't look like it was moving because I was on the track. It was coming directly at me. I'm on there, but I didn't realize it. The train comes and plows into the Ford Pinto. The Pinto goes up literally like aluminum foil. And the only thing I could do at that moment was call out to God. The car was destroyed. I didn't get a scratch. I come out and there are police all over. It made the headline. It was the local headlines: resident uninjured in train car collision. I'm in a police car and I'm thinking, God, that was close. You know, I said, can we renegotiate that deal? Because I realized that I was within inches of eternity. I mean, just inches eternity. And so I said, God, here's the new deal. I'll accept you. I will accept you when I turn 20. That's the new deal. So when I turn 20, just don't kill me until then. It was my 20th birthday, and I said, okay, I made the deal. I have to hold true to this, my word. And so I didn't know how to do it, but I remember in Hebrew school that God would do things on mountains. You know, it's very Jewish to associate God with mountaintops, you know. So let me find a mountain. So I look and I'm driving around, I find a mountain, and I've never been there before. It's dark, it's night, and I kind of go up not knowing where, but just I keep going higher and higher, and I get to the top of the mountain, and there I kneel down on a rock, and without knowing how or what I was doing or how to do it, I just prayed to receive the Lord into my life, and I dedicated my life to the Lord on that mountaintop. One day I was going to Washington for Jesus. I was early in my faith, which was a gathering in Washington of believers. So I had to tell my parents that day, just before the car was ready to pick me up. So I said I have to go. And my wife said, "Are you going to Washington? Why?" I said, "Well, there's an event." "What kind?" "Christian." And there was dead silence. So I said, "You okay?" He said, "I'm catatonic." You know, was his answer. I said, "Well, gotta go." That was it. So that's how I told them. And after that, they knew. And, you know, they weren't, and the initial thing is they weren't thrilled. You know, Jewish people, again, are raised that the one thing you can never do is follow Jesus, this one. But they liked the effect of Jesus in my life. They liked the changes, even though, you know, and I would say they were even proud of the changes, but the name was the problem. I was in college when this happened, and also at night I was working as a night watchman, doing my college work while doing it, which is maybe was prophetic because it's watchman. You know, that's always been something. So, and I remember there was an African American cleaning man who saw me right after I came to the Lord, and he said, "You got that glow. You got that glow." So I said, "Well, he sees it." You know. So what happened was it was a change that began to then step by step change my whole life. Graduating high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do because it was opening up from being an atheist to believing strongly, not yet living it, not yet giving my life, but the call was there. I knew I was being called. I ended up going to the State University of Purchase, history major. I started doing very well in that, and then I got saved. That's when, in the middle of college, is when I came to the Lord, when the train happened. Graduating college, I was in a real state of flux because I was questioning everything. Then I had to decide what to do to go on. And a believer now, when I came to the Lord, I said, okay, now what? And we ended up going to Charlie Rizzo, Church of the Nazarene, in Paramus. And Charlie Rizzo came out of kind of the Jesus movement. It was hip, it was contemporary. And he loved Israel, loved the Jewish people, and talked about prophecy.
So it's been a constant revival all these years. Beth Israel started right here, and it was certainly God's will that Jonathan be the head guy there, because I've seen the Lord sculpt this thing throughout the years. He really looked like a follower of Jesus, and just a big Jewish afro, I would call it. I recall him playing, singing and stuff. I mean, he would attack that thing. They have to have the soundest messianic synagogue we can call. I've met so many Jewish believers, especially in Israel now. They're all over the place. But one thing they lack, good teaching. They lack good teaching. But Jonathan had that foundation. And that's why Beth Israel is so solid and so stable, because he's balanced. He earned his wings, and his teaching abilities are fantastic, incredible. They're growing all the time. They continue to grow, and he's now influencing the world.
I was asked to substitute in church services. It helped start a ministry to the homeless in New York City. We would go in the week with food and with tracts, and every week we'd be ministering to the homeless for years. Then said, Lord, give me something that you would do. It doesn't have to be outright ministry, but give me something you would minister with. I ended up getting a job working with disabled children, and that's what I did for several years while I was ministering in all of the ways, but that was my job. And it was really my preparation. The Lord taught humility, patience, dealing with all these things, really seeking to be a servant. So that was going on there. Meanwhile, I was teaching, leading the Bible study. I was asked to substitute in church services.
In 2012, Jonathan Cahn caused a worldwide sensation with the release of his first book, The Harbinger. He has held back from writing a sequel until the time was right. The time has now come. The Harbinger 2, The Return. The Harbinger 2 will reveal what could never be revealed until now. Could an ancient mystery be determining the events of our time? And does it reveal the secret of our future? What does it reveal about judgment? Are we closer now than we were before? How much time is left? Is the shaking that has come upon the world a sign of warning of things to come? Could the global pandemic, 9/11, the financial collapse, and other shakings all be joined together as part of an ancient mystery? Discover the signs, the manifestations, the new harbingers, and the mysteries that have appeared in America and the world, and what they reveal. Unlock the mysteries of the gate, the book of days, the image, the children of the ruins, the shakings, the plague, the mystery ship, the day of the watchman, and much more. The Harbinger 2 will take you on an epic journey with a prophet from an island in New England to the top of the Tower of Ground Zero, to the House of Faces, to the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. New York Times bestselling author Jonathan Cahn. By Jonathan Cahn.
Something about human nature is not satisfied and goes to the other side. People are tempted to adultery. It all seems so loving